WWT presents Partner Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Partner Spotlight brought to you by WWT Presents. My name is Chris Konrad, and I'm the Area Vice President for WWT's Global Cyber Business. And I'm incredibly honored and pleased to be joined today by Michael Dickman, who is the Chief Product Officer at Gigamon. Now, some of you may not immediately be familiar with Gigamon, but for years, they've quietly served as the glue that binds together key technologies that keep companies like yours and ours protected. And today, they act as a foundational element for a sophisticated cybersecurity strategy. When I say Gigamon can be found in many of the largest and most complex secure networks in the world, and that's a fact. And Michael leads product innovation, management, and marketing across Gigamon's entire portfolio of hybrid cloud, 5G, security solutions. He's had previous roles with Cisco, including early work on SD-WAN for hybrid cloud, Aruba Networks, and Boston Consulting Group. And oh, by the way, he could give us one fun fact. What would it be, Michael?
I guess would be I am a certified bartender, which not everybody knows about me, but I not only love mixing technologies, but I love mixing drinks.
Well, maybe after this call, you can maybe share one with me. That would be great. Michael, let's just jump right into it. I mean, so from your perspective, how has the cybersecurity threat landscape evolved in your eyes over the last, we'll call it 6 to 12 months, and what trends do you foresee coming up in the near future?
Yeah, no, it's a super important question, and maybe I'll start with like the last few years almost, because in some ways there's this giant trend which is lasting more than the last 6 months, and that's not the shift to cloud, which I think we all know and is obvious, but the maturation of a hybrid cloud, a multi-cloud world. And now I'm seeing many more customers, and this now goes to your question, in the last 6 to 12 months, take much more of a proactive stance and approach to how do we want to secure our hybrid and multi-cloud environments. So, there's different statistics floating around, but from Gigamon's study, we've seen that 92% of large organizations are hybrid cloud today, and most of those have multiple public clouds, at least one private cloud, as well as their physical environment with bare metal workloads. And so from a security standpoint, the question is, okay, I know I've got zero trust going on. I know I've got to secure my entire organization, not only this environment or that environment, and how do I drive that? And so really we're hearing a lot more interest in how do I get the right foundation in place, and how do I get the right consultation and advice and a solution approach versus, hey, I've got this narrow point problem, what security tool do I want to buy for that? So immediate trends is, I would say, tool rationalization, consistency, and architectural thinking. And I think that's exactly the right direction given the complexities of cloud and the threat landscape.
Yeah, Michael, and for us, we see, I'll call it maybe 3 major challenges. And so first of all, you have years of rapidly evolving threats have enriched the security tool set available to organizations. As you know, and many organizations employ dozens of instruments purchased from a wide variety of different vendors that are in the market today, often needing proper integration, optimizing within their security states. And what we're also seeing is this just results into tool sprawl. So you have inefficient, you have difficult to operate, they're expensive. And that's really the exact opposite of what was really first intended. I mean, as you well know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to build on that because that's a lot of what Gigamon, I think, saw, like you mentioned for a long time, is tool sprawl and inefficiency.
Right.
And we're seeing that same problem come back now where tool sprawl is across environments. And the inefficiency isn't only cost, but it's also blind spots and security risks. So right. I just couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as you know, too, just as technology becomes more and more integrated into every aspect of our daily lives, I mean, the adversaries out there just really have unlimited opportunities to breach personal and company-related data. And so for us, I mean, readiness and recovery from the inevitable attacks can really ensure that your company can quickly return to full business operations. I mean, that's absolutely critical. And obviously, a lot of architectures are starting to change, and that's a big deal that we're seeing, just a lack of visibility, as you mentioned earlier, on hybrid cloud environments. So that attack surface in general is really just starting to grow. And more and more people are looking at things like segmentation and zero trust architecture are
Mhm.
just hot topics for us.
Very, very true.
So, Michael, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump just real quick to another topic. So, with the increasing complexity of these cyber threats and the need for multiple security tools, like we just talked about, what can security leaders do today that can help combat some of these difficult challenges?
Let me give two specific areas that I do think should be pursued in the near term. The first one is around the view of being end to end versus siloed. And I do see today a big risk where customers may say, hey, I'm comfortable with this environment or this app. Now I have a new environment or app. What's the best tool for that? And I think that over time, that's actually very dangerous. That leads to complexity and to sprawl. And with inefficiency comes not only cost, but also security blind spots. And so stepping back and saying, hey, this is my environment where I might have a database on premises. I might have a workload running in the cloud. I have endpoints everywhere, people working from home. How do I get threat detection, authentication, controls in the right way end to end for my environment? And I do think that moving away from a siloed approach is better. And there's a lot of room for tools that are by nature hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, rather than per cloud or per physical data center in order to actually achieve security with efficiency. So I think that's one really important direction. A second piece that is near and dear to us at Gigamon is the value of network intelligence. And in particular, a lot of the newer security tools, as well as traditional, rely very heavily on logs. And so you have endpoint detection with endpoint logs, you have Windows event logs, you have application logs, everything. And increasingly, we're seeing attackers disable logs, manipulate those logs. Nefariously, they can even record normal behavior logs and then replay those during an attack, so that a SOC might think that they are observing actual events when it is really a replay of historical logs. And then, of course, logs can be cleared as well. So there's just so many angles of attack there that in order to stand on solid ground and really feel like there's a source of truth, you have to go to the network, which tracks real-time data communications. And so that's what we see is absolutely essential is application metadata from real application traffic, network flows, and if necessary, even packets to see what actually happened as that defense in depth with confidence. I'd love to hear, what you're seeing at WWT.
Yeah, Michael, I'm glad a minute ago you mentioned data because it's a top priority for chief information security officers for the foreseeable future. And according to a recent WWT research report, we'll be improving visibility, validation, and control of enterprise data. And that is a top priority with all of our customers. And organizations just need to better understand their data flows in order to protect the enterprise, just understand how data is processed, stored, and transmitted throughout the organization. Mm-hmm. And then obviously they're implementing a wide variety of different security initiatives, so including SASE and SSE architectures and zero trust and cyber resiliency, just to name a few. So for us and for the foreseeable future, data is a big deal. And so wrapping our arms around that and securing that. If you don't mind, I want to jump to another area that's near and dear to my heart, and we're seeing more and more of our own teams asking questions about it. We're also seeing our customers ask about it. How does Gigamon's deep observability pipeline provide, network derived intelligence for securing hybrid cloud environments, and what specific technologies can organizations leverage for this purpose?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Chris. Appreciate that. So we call this a deep observability pipeline, and the idea is that it provides depth that you can only get from the network, all the way from L2, L3, L4 to L7, and it provides that hybrid multi-cloud observability. So without forcing developers to do something different or inserting something that's disruptive, you can observe behavior. And it's a pipeline because that telemetry and intelligence can then be sent wherever it needs to go. And so because of that, we have this concept of any workload in any environment to any tool. So any workload being bare metal, VM, or container, and also things like 5G and IoT and so on, really any workload in any environment, which could be AWS, Azure, Google, Nutanix, VMware, OpenShift, whatever, into any tool or destination, which could be SIMs or these new secure observability tools or WAFs or IPS or whatever. And so that's kind of what we build. And so to your question on the technologies to achieve that, it is different technologies in different arenas. So in the container world, you do need something that maps to that ephemerality of containers. And so we have a technology we call Universal Cloud Tap, which can actually pull out directly network traffic from a container, and it's automatically orchestrated with any orchestrator and with any container network interface. So very agnostic to the container implementation, which gets you what you need. In the virtual world, we can use either cloud native methods like AWS traffic mirroring or taking advantage of VMware service insertion, or you can use agent-based, but same idea, take out the traffic. And then, of course, in the physical world, you have physical taps as well. And then once you have that telemetry, you bring it into a central pipeline for processing, deduplication, header stripping. These are kind of basic examples, but all the way to advanced net flow generation, application metadata intelligence, and decryption. And then from there, you can come up with the right maps of which tool receives which data. And so the net of it is optimization and efficiency and ubiquity. And so you get no blind spots with efficiency, which is a huge thing for security.
Michael, you've been quoted in different publications, and I know you're pretty passionate around reducing data center power consumption and carbon emissions. And so how can a deep observability pipeline help with that and have a positive effect on attaining, let's just say, ESG targets? How does that help?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. It's true that we spend a lot of time talking about dollars and security, but there's this other question of power and environment, sustainability, which maybe doesn't get the airtime it deserves.
Right.
The same kinds of methods we use to reduce the traffic that is going to tools, so that's only the right traffic that's needed, like only email traffic to an email security tool, or only application metadata to certain threat intelligence tools. That same approach means that there's less traffic traversing the network, and the tools themselves don't need to process as much. And we actually went through a quantification of that based on typical tool deployments and typical Gigamon services, and it's quite remarkable. With a forward-looking view, by avoiding new tool purchases, reducing traffic, and only processing what's needed, we can reduce 11 kilowatt hours of energy for security and other processing to just 1 kilowatt hour on a forward-looking basis. And so we have customers now that can plan how their data center traffic growth doesn't necessarily have to drive more power consumption for the monitoring infrastructure. And so that's a great possibility and benefit from us.
Michael, in addition to the deep observability pipeline, what are some of the other technologies that play an important part of the Gigamon ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So I certainly talked about some that are on the traffic acquisition piece, like Universal Cloud Tap, our virtual traffic acquisition, and even physical tap and aggregation. But I think the one that I would highlight, and I hope people remember, is what we call GigaSmart. And this is the idea of both stateful and stateless packet processing for efficiency. And this is where you get things like decryption for plain text visibility, either inline or out of band. GigaSmart is where you get deduplication, one of the most powerful ways to increase efficiency. GigaSmart is where you would get application filtering intelligence, where you can choose not on a low-level network basis, but on an application level basis, what traffic should be monitored by which tools. And so GigaSmart is an absolutely critical technology, and the vast majority of our customers deploy that today. But I will say, I think there's a lot more efficiency and opportunity for that moving forward.
And you triggered some thoughts in my head here. And as we know, XDR, the extended detection and response, brings value to organizations by consolidating and automating threat detection and response across multiple security layers, which can lead to more efficient and effective security operations. And in my opinion, based on everything that Gigamon can offer, candidly, I think it's the perfect partner to be part of this holistic architecture. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I certainly agree. I'll just give one example by which to agree. There can be situations where customers might say, you know what, I just want to be consuming metadata at the application level to get a high level view of what's happening everywhere. But then if there's an incident, you may actually want to trigger real-time, more in-depth telemetry. And so you can say, even though you wouldn't normally do this, I'm in an incident, I actually want to capture packets from a certain endpoint of interest. You can do that. And so the idea of being dynamic, responsive to different types of telemetry, and being very intelligent about how that's deployed is absolutely in the spirit of extended detection and response. And so I agree and think that has to be part of a total solution architecture.
Michael, one of the hottest topics that we're having right now and conversations with all of our customers is around generative AI. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
If you remember, Jen Easterly made a comment back in the spring. She said that AI is probably the most powerful capability of our time, but she also said it's the most powerful weapon of our time. And if I look at just it's becoming now an ally to our adversaries and how they're leveraging AI to attack us. And I'd be real curious just to get a little in-depth answer from you on how does Gigamon play in protecting an organization from these adversaries now who are leveraging AI to attack us?
Yeah, it is definitely a hot topic, and I will say an emerging area. But let me offer a few thoughts there. The first is just on the basics, and I talked about this earlier with kind of logs and the danger of relying only on logs. Is with ML based attacks, right, which are now evolving into these more clever AI based attacks. To be able to see what's actually happening is essential, and not rely solely on what machines are saying through logs. So there's that base level. But to click up to maybe some more interesting things forward looking, um, the AI side on the defense really relies on a baseline understanding of what's actually happening. And there's a lot of systems right now that have visibility at ingress egress points like north south, but they are blind to that east west traffic or lateral movement, which is, first of all, where a ton of workload communication takes place. But secondly, that's how attackers are moving among the environment, is laterally east west. And you cannot identify anomalies, and you certainly can't use AI to identify likely attacks unless you have visibility to what is happening there. And so with Gigamon's deep observability in the virtual world, you can observe into that traffic and you can then feed these AI models, right? So if you have the best AI model in the world, you don't train it on any data, it's obviously useless. And what's, I think, a risk of happening is training some of these AI security tools only on ingress egress information or only on endpoint logs, but not training them on lateral east west movement, which is a critical place where attackers are moving. And so that, I would say, is a huge opportunity. The other piece that's kind of interesting is this concept of data poisoning. And I don't know if that's familiar yet to your viewers, but may become so. And this is the idea of if an AI model is either trained or informed with incorrect or manipulated data, it's a big problem. And one of the big trends right now is to take a large language model like ChatGPT, we all know that, and to make it relevant with current knowledge based on something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And that's where you have this generic model, this LLM, and then you feed it context together with the query. Now, if that context is manipulated, it's a huge problem. And so what Gigamon can do is Gigamon can see and sense what information is actually being relied on for that part of the communication. And so if that data poisoning is happening and someone is manipulating the types of documents or traffic that is feeding into that AI model, that can be a big risk for garbage in, garbage out, which isn't just a quality issue, but a security issue. And I don't think we've seen a lot of attacks on that yet, but we will as more enterprises start leveraging RAG together with LLM for generative AI. Attackers will then go to what they are using. And that is certainly an attack vector we need to be prepared for. And as with everything, you can't secure what you can't see, and you need to see those communications happening. And that is absolutely an area to watch. So thanks for the question. And I do think now is the right time to build that solid foundation for east-west visibility, API calls, all this kind of communication within and among the AI systems.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. I mean, AI now is AI security. It's become more of a board level discussion than ever before, and it's that important. And protecting the AI model is absolutely critical to every single organizations, and making sure that they're adhering to all the regulations and standards, and having appropriate policies and procedures implemented across the entire organization. So thank you for that, Michael.
Actually, that brings up one more point around compliance, right? So one of the things you could do with Gigamon is you could actually track if an AI model has been manipulated to release PII data, because we can actually see that with things like masking to see, oh, hey, there's a social security number, a credit card number, or whatever that's being released in the network traffic that it should not be there. And so that's a great point. That's another angle there. Sure.
So if you don't mind, I want to pivot to just a different topic area and just talk about our partnership. So how does the partnership between Gigamon and Worldwide contribute to delivering, I'll call it, comprehensive security solutions to our global customers? And why has WWT earned the number one alignment with Gigamon?
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge fan of Worldwide, as I think you know. I got to know WWT through my Cisco days, and since then, just continue to be impressed. And if there's one thing I love about Worldwide, which I think is culturally very similar between Gigamon and WWT, it's that solution level focus. And so you think about things like ATC, which I know everybody talks about and loves, being able to prove things at the solution level, not just validate a product, being able to show it in practice is just amazing. Add to that now the reach and scale of WWT, and you are our number one partner today, which is much appreciated. And I think our customers really appreciate that combination of what Gigamon brings in terms of foundational technology to make everything else better, and what WWT brings, which is that solution level view with cybersecurity and how that integrates everywhere. There's a lot of newer things I think are great, like ATC Digital. And there's a lot of opportunity now in this new world to say, when do we show it physically? When do we show it virtually? When do we bring you in? When do we have virtual engagements through digital platforms? And it's just an awesome engagement that covers many customers in many scenarios. One other specific use case is that WWT does help some of our largest customers certify their products in the solution design, like one of the world's largest banks, one of the world's largest militaries, which you can kind of guess. And this is a critical for their confidence in a total solution.
Yeah, I do believe it's the biggest competitive value proposition we have as an organization, and how customers globally are leveraging it for their proof of concepts to be able to do multi-OEM integrations and leverage our cyber range for more sophisticated security testing for sure. Michael, we're running up on time, and I think I could probably have this conversation with you all day long. And obviously, I could talk about this topic for hours. I know your time is limited, so I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in on WWT.com. And if you'd like to learn more about the WWT and Gigamon partnership, please visit our partner section of WWT.com platform. We have lots of great information and resources surrounding Gigamon and its entire portfolio of strategic solutions and products. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions moving forward. And thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.
It's a pleasure, Chris. Thanks, and thanks everyone for watching.